What's going on, everybody? It's How To Tuesday. We're going to talk about something that's going to be really important in your world coming up. If you're a Keys fisherman, you're going to go down to the Florida Keys. You're going to fish for tarpon. You're going to do it with a fly rod. This is something that's going to be super important to you. You absolutely must pick up this skill, and it is how to present the fly with a backcast. A lot of fly fishermen don't do this well, and in my opinion, the double haul is not an optional technique. In order to fly fish in saltwater, the double haul is mandatory. Equally as important, presenting the fly on the backcast accurately and with authority is also a mandatory technique. You will not be very successful if you can't double haul and if you can't present the fly on the backcast. This is why presenting the fly on the backcast is so important. Got a rod here to demonstrate. Most fly fishermen, let's say most fly fishermen are right-handed. You're going to be fly fishing. The fish is going to be out here, and under a perfect world, the wind is going to be slightly off your left shoulder. It's going to be blowing the line away from you as you are casting. You're going to be able to cast and present that fly perfectly to the fish that is at 11 o'clock. Well, if you've been saltwater fly fishing very much, you know that sometimes happens. And when it does, it's to be celebrated. That's kind of a layup shot. 50 feet at 11 o'clock, wind off your left shoulder. That is great. That's going to be where the right-handed caster is going to be the most accurate. But what happens a lot of times is that instead of that fish being at 11 o'clock, the fish is at 1 o'clock. Okay? Now, the wind may still be off your left shoulder, but all of a sudden a fish pops up at 1 o'clock, which if you're on a skiff, the bow will be pointed not where you were pointed, but where the bow of the boat is pointed. That is where the clock is referenced. So the bow of the boat is pointed at 12 o'clock. The fish would be slightly off to the right. So it seems easy to turn and make your cast, like you would in a stream like this. But you've got your best friend back here behind you, the guide, that has a 21-foot pole in his hand. And just to turn and make that shot, you're going to hit the guide. It's not going to be good. You don't want to hit the guide. That is a bad thing to do. So either the guide has to spin the boat all the way around so that now you can take this shot at 1 o'clock to, let's say it's a laid up tarpon, it's not moving, barracuda, something that's not moving. He can sometimes spin the boat all the way around. But in order to do that, you make noise, you make a disturbance in the water, that fish gets wind of you. It's not going to be as easy to catch that fish. So now you can make your cast like you would have, because the boat is now, he's made the cast instead of a 1 o'clock shot, he's made it an 11 o'clock shot for you. He's doing that for you because you can't backcast. If you could backcast, the boat could have stayed exactly the same. You wouldn't have alarmed the fish at all. You would have flipped a little backcast out there and had a much better chance of catching the fish. Other situations are where, let's say, the fish is right where you want it to be, right? At 11 o'clock, but the wind is ripping off your right hand shoulder. So now when you go to make that cast, everything is blowing into you. So you get 40 or 50 feet of line in the air. And even though the guide is pretty much out of the way, you're not. So that when you come forward, the wind is blowing the fly line and the fly into your right shoulder. And it usually hits you in the shoulder, the head, or the leg somewhere. It's not fun. Sometimes it doesn't pierce you. Sometimes it does. And that's even worse, because now you got a fly stuck in your leg and there's a tarpon out there and you can't get the fly out. If you could just pull it out, lots of people would just rip it out and go again. But sometimes you can't even do that. Now the barb's in there. Now you got to stop down. It's a bad situation. So instead of doing that, the fish is at 11 o'clock. You could turn, tell the guide, hey, I got it. No problem. I'm going to make the cast here. And you make the cast right to the fish. And in fact, when you start to learn how to do the backcast presentation, you'll find that it is a more powerful cast. So let's talk about how we can make it a more powerful cast. This microphone is going to be problematic where it is. Okay, so in the fly cast, you have to aerialize the line behind you and then get it to come forward. You are pretty strong like this, okay? You are really strong by pulling instead of pushing. Your wrist, your arm is pretty strong in a pushing motion. You are using all of the big muscles in your forearms, your triceps, your lats, your back, your legs. You're even using turning muscles in your torso. Your obliques and your abs are getting into this cast as you learn how to rip a back cast with all those big muscles. Okay, so one of the big things about learning how to make a back cast is to learn how to pin the butt of a saltwater fly rod up against your forearm. Okay, now as I do that, you can see that my wrist is coming up like this and going down like this. This is the secret of a very powerful cast, because I'm not trying to leverage the rod only with my wrist. I'm using my forearm so that when I come back, I'm keeping it up against my forearm all the way until it's time to stop the rod. And then I'm letting the rod go, okay? So the way that would look on a back cast, I'm just going to flip it like that with my hand on the top of the rod and make a back cast. Okay, so the way that you practice a back cast and presenting a fly is exactly that. You have to practice. This isn't going to come naturally. And if you're a trout fisherman, you're going to be kind of in a situation to where your natural inclination is to be square to the target. You've been square to the target most of your life. That's probably how you're going to fish. If you're really old school, you're going to be super square to the target, 10 and 2, and that's a very weak position. It's not an athletic position at all. We're going to get you in a more athletic position, more like somebody throwing a baseball or a football, rather than trying to cast with a Bible under your arm like they used to. Okay, that's a horrible, unathletic position. You couldn't throw a baseball 30 feet like that. We're going to get you into a position to where you could throw a baseball as hard as you possibly could. So one of the ways that you do that is you put one foot forward, right? So if you watch the Super Bowl, you watch Mahomes and Brady, they don't stand there and throw the ball like this. They got one foot in front of them. They're very athletic. They step forward and they throw the ball. Think about that when you are fly fishing. That's the same way. You step forward, you move forward, you haul, and you push that rod forward on the forward cast, okay? That's the way that you already know how to cast. We're going to start working on the back cast, and the back cast presentation is the same thing. So if I am kind of getting ready to cast at 11 o'clock, I'm a right-handed caster. I'm going to have my left foot kind of a little bit forward. I'm going to be in a position more like I would throw a baseball or more like I would throw a football, okay? More like I would hit a tennis ball. I'm going to have my right foot kind of forward, and I'm going to be in an athletic position. Now, as I go to make a back cast presentation, I'm going to move my stance the other way. So I'm going to have my right foot forward and facing the target. And let's say that the target is going to be right here at 1 o'clock. And I am going to have my right foot forward. And I'm going to be thinking that I'm throwing backwards this way. So I'm going to throw the back cast to 1 o'clock. Now, here's what a lot of people get way off track doing when they try to present something on their back cast, or they're just learning this, is that they think that presenting on the back cast means that you need to face the other way and throw your forward cast this way and then make this turn around and present to the back cast. Now, if you've done much saltwater fly fishing, you know that if you take your eye off the target, chances are that fish is already hard to see. If you take your eyes off of it, very good chance you're going to lose it. the boat's moving, the ocean's moving, the fish is moving. You take your eye off that target, you look back, and the fish is not there. It happens all the time to the best. Well, it doesn't happen to the best because the best never take their eye off the target. And that is super key when you are practicing. You want to practice so that you never take your eye off the target. You don't want to glance at the backcast. Lefty Cray used to say, he used to joke around with people and he'd say, I don't know why you're looking at your backcast. There's nothing good happening back there. And he would always make fun of your backcast. It was kind of funny, but he, in this situation, he's absolutely right. There's no reason for you to be looking at the backcast. You only, well, which would be kind of your forward cast. You only want to be looking where you are presenting the fly. So let's say you're going to practice in the yard with a hula hoop. You're only going to look at that fly. Now you're going to get in the ready position. You're going to make the cast as you normally would, but you're going to have your right foot facing forward. Your right foot is facing towards the target. Your shoulders, my right shoulder is canted towards the target that I'm throwing at, as opposed to if I'm throwing a forward cast, my left shoulder would be kind of toward the angle. If I'm throwing a baseball, my left shoulder is kind of leading. My right shoulder, if I'm right-handed, my right shoulder is the shoulder that's going to have the ball and follow through. So in this situation, we're going to have our right foot forward and we're going to cast across our body. And as we come forward, the butt of the rod is going to be jammed up against our forearm and we're going to make our cast right at the target, okay? Forward cast, don't look at it. Back cast, right at the target. I'm hauling as well, so the haul looks like this. Haul down when the forward cast is backwards, and bring it forward and haul now, and let the line go. The back cast presentation, I can never stress how important this is. I'll give you a little example. One time I went to Christmas Island. Well, I've been to Christmas Island twice. Both times, Christmas Island is known as kind of a windy place. It is windy there. And I don't know how this happens, but every flat that I went to was a right-hand wind. And I thought about it at the end of the trip. And I was like, I caught 90% of the fish that I caught using a back cast because the wind was blowing on my right shoulder and it was easier and better, more accurate to make a back cast. If I didn't know how to make that back cast or I was uncomfortable with it, I wouldn't have caught very many fish. And so as I got ready to take my boys there for my second trip, I made sure that we were all very confident with our back cast. I didn't have them practice the forward cast at all. Chances are you've got the forward cast down. Chances are that's only going to be about 30% of what you're doing. The chances are, for whatever reason, if you're a right-handed caster, there are going to be a lot of days where you have a right-handed wind. I don't know why. It doesn't seem like it would work out that way, but it does. And it's usually the good days. The good days where you're going to get a lot of shots, you got a right-hand wind, it's very difficult to throw that way. So do yourself a favor, learn this back cast presentation. It is of the utmost importance. I cannot stress it enough. This is super important. And you don't have to be able to throw 100 feet with the back cast. If you can get 20 feet of fly line outside of your rod tip, hold the fly, and you can literally flip it out there like that, you're going to be better off than 60% of the fly fishermen already, just by knowing that you can flick it out on a back cast like this. If you can then pick up, make a false cast, and then shoot line to a target that's 40 feet away, your guide is going to love you. You are going to be better off than 70, 80% of the fly fishermen. If you can then make a back cast presentation more powerfully than you can make a forward cast presentation and accurately, you're going to start winning tournaments. That's all there is to it. I mean, you're going from being somebody that a guide really doesn't want to fish with because they got to maneuver the boat around and actually catch the fish for you, to being somebody that is better than 80% of the fly fishermen, to being somebody that's capable of winning a tournament. That is how important this backcast presentation is. I can't stress it enough. So if you have questions, I want you to text me. That is that number. What is that number? 930. We'll put it right here. The number's right down here, 930-305-930-7346, I think. I want you to text me if you have questions about how to practice. The most important thing is you have a target. And it's best if you have 2 targets, 2 different distances, and you only practice this back cast to the target. Don't practice the back cast 2 or 3 times and then practice the forward cast. You've already practiced the forward cast, and you're only going to get to use it about 30% of the time. Use the back cast. Use the back cast presentation. Get comfortable with it, and stop looking at the back cast. Do not take your eye off the target ever in practice. Ever. There is no reason to take your eye off the target. It's super important. All right. I was adamant about all of these things because I've seen it firsthand for a lot of years on the back of the boat. The guys that could backcast catch a lot more fish. They're happier. They're more successful. They win more tournaments. The guys that can't do it or refuse to learn are frustrated. Don't be that guy. It doesn't take that long to learn. If you need help, go to your local fly shop. Tell them about this podcast. Ask them what they think. Ask them if they can teach you how to make a backcast presentation. Some people can, some people can't. But if they tell you that that's not important, don't worry about it. They've never had to do it. Don't listen to them, because you're going to have to do it. I promise you, if you fish enough, you're going to have a day with a right hand wind. You're going to be wishing you knew how to make a backcast presentation without taking your eye off the target. That's what we talked about today. That is How To Tuesday for today. I hope you learned something. If you did, send me a text, send me an email at podcast@Saltwater Experience. This came from the text thread from one of the people that's on it. It was a great suggestion. I want to thank you for that. And this is a great one. So thanks for the suggestion. I hope I did a good job showing you. And one more thing, always when you're practicing fly fishing, and especially when you're practicing something new, like the backcast presentation, man, wear your sunglasses, because you probably will get hit in the eye. Don't get hit in the eye. Wear your sunglasses. If possible, wear some like these. These are Wiley X. These are protective. They are like safety glasses. So if you wear these and you get hit in the eye, you won't lose your eyeball. That's one of my pet peeves and my fears, is getting hit in the eye with a fly. So when you're practicing something new, it's super important. Wear a hat and sunglasses just like you're going to do out on the boat, and never fly cast without glasses. All right. That's it for today. We'll see you next week.